You got your notes? If you got your notes, you didn't get your notes, you need to get your notes. Otherwise, you're going to be listening to a sermon and you're going to be trying to write something somewhere that you need to write down. So I hope and pray that you got your notes, you got everything for you. And so let's go this morning. We've been talking about daring faith, and a faith that actually will help you understand miracles that are going on and miracles that are happening. Last week we talked about three aspects of a Christian life. That Paul says that basically that we are a military person or a soldier. Not only are we a soldier, but we are also an athlete. We talked about those two, and then the last one that we talked about was farmer, okay? And in the farmer, we didn't talk a whole lot about it. So this week we're coming back and we're going to talk about how to plant in faith, okay? You got all these preachers that are sitting out there on TV, and as they begin to speak to you, they begin to tell you, here's what you need to do. You need to plant a little seed of faith, and you need to give me $1, $5, $10, $20, write a check, 50, 100. So this morning, here's what I need y'all to do. On the way out, if you would just take and empty your pockets into the buckets, that'll be your seed of faith. I would say empty your purses, but I'm afraid of everything that would fall out of those things. But I guarantee you at the end of the service, I probably would not have to worry about looking for anything. I probably would find one of everything and 3 or 5 of another, okay? But anything that is of value that says on it, in God we trust, we'll take. But anyway, we were talking about the soldiers and everything and the farmers. And so today we're going to talk about how a farmer is successful, okay? Because in the Bible, God or Christ is constantly talking about the Christian life. And metaphorically, he always is using the example of a farmer. Planting and sowing, reaping and harvesting, or sowing and reaping, okay? In Genesis chapter 8 and verse number 22, it says, as long as the earth endures, there will be seed time and harvest. So what God is saying is this, ladies and gentlemen, as long as this earth continues to exist in the state that it is today, there will always be a planting of a seed and a harvest. It is going to continue. It is not going to stop. Amen. Okay? No matter what people say, because the problem is too many times all we think about is the planting of food. Planting a seed of this or plant a seed of that. Today we want to kind of nip it in the bud. That is not exactly everything that he's talking about, and that's only just a small portion of what Jesus was talking about. Because in Galatians chapter 6 in verse number 7, it says this, don't be misled. No one makes a fool of God. Amen. God is not mocked. Amen. Okay? Because why? Whatsoever a man plants or sows. You need to understand something. A lot of people want to make this verse to read, for whatsoever a man sows, he might reap. Maybe. You need to read all of it. Whatsoever a man sows, he will reap. That is a very bold statement from God. And God is adamant about that. God is not changing his mind. He is warning you that whatever you sow in your life, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to reap it. Amen. Now, for those of you that have children, remember the old adage from your mama. Whenever you were bad, remember one of these days you're going to be a parent. Amen. And remember all of the things that you ever did to me, how many times you backtalked me. Let me say this to you all. When you plant one seed, multiple things come back from that one seed. So when you are a bad child one time, you are going to have bad children multitudes of times. For every one thing that you did bad, your children are going to do twice or 3 times. And then you say, God help me. He was trying his best when he told you to honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days on this earth may be long. And a lot of times what you may find is the aggravation of your old life has come back to haunt you from your past. Amen. And some of you all that are older are shaking your head, yes. Just be careful, because you may have children here and they are watching you. But when you begin to talk about sowing, a lot of people today, when you talk about sowing, they just think, okay, you're talking about a needle and thread, and that's what we're doing, okay? No, the Bible's not talking about a needle and thread. The Bible is talking about the new thing of reaping. But before farm machinery came on, people had to take and put seeds in the ground by hand. Amen. Or on the ground, or just broadcast it or spread it by hand. Today, it's neat because you can just take a big old bag of seed, put it on the back of that tractor, and that tractor will just plant it just nice, even rows, as long as you're driving the tractor straight. When you get to the end of the row, you find out real quick when that corn starts growing up, boy, I sure went the wrong way. What was I thinking about? Why? Because you never kept your eyes on the one spot the whole time. Amen. And they teach you that, okay? But listen, when they started sowing seeds and they called it broadcasting, okay? Well, today we now have radio and television. And remember, they would say that we're going to broadcast this program. So what are they doing? They're taking the seed of that program, and no longer is it only being seen by one individual. Now anybody can connect with an antenna or cable or whatever it is. They can broadcast that one time, and it will go out sporadically all around the world. Amen. So you think about it. You can take and say something today on TV, and within 10 to 15 seconds of you saying it, the whole world could know it. Amen. So that's why you need to understand something. If you ignore the laws of sowing and reaping, ladies and gentlemen, in your life, it's going to hurt you. And it's going to come back to harm you. But if you wisely use the laws of sowing and reaping, you will find out that you will have one of the most blessed lives ever, if you learn the principle. Because let me say this to you. Sowing and reaping can be used in every aspect of your life. Number one, you can sow a seed in a relationship. And if you sow the right seed, that relationship can come back to be a relationship that can be very, very joyful, peaceful, understanding in your life. But if you sow a seed of discord in that relationship, ladies and gentlemen, that seed will come back. Amen. You need to understand, because you are going to sow. Whatever you sow, you're going to reap. You can use it in your finances. If you take and sow your money in the right place, it will come back and benefit you. Okay? For instance, if you take and spend all of your money on Reese cups and Cokes, it will come back to bite you in multitudes of ways. Waistline, thighs, and other aspects of your body, as well as your pocketbook, because you end up getting little things that you shouldn't get. And then what ends up happening is you end up paying for it medically. And it ends up getting you, okay? So, what you need to understand is this. Even in the laws of health, if you, and you know, I always thought, in all reality, just kind of being facetious, the government always said there were 5 food groups. Now there's 7, okay? They subdivided some of them. And so, if you were to eat something from all 5 food groups, then you would have a well-balanced diet. That is not correct, because if you go with a Coke and a Reese cup, you have all of the basic 5 food groups. They're there. They're all there. They're just in the wrong amounts. Okay? So you can sow Reese cups and Coke all your life, and you'll end up paying for it later on in your life. Okay? It's called sugar. But my mom always taught me that song, sugar in the morning, sugar in the evening, sugar at supper time. Well, that's not true. Too much sugar will kill you. Okay? So what you need to understand is that you need to start planning some things, okay? So if you feel, I hear people all the time say this, I don't feel appreciated. Have you sown a seed of appreciation? A husband says to the wife, or the wife says to the husband, I don't feel like you appreciate me anymore. When's the last time you told them that you appreciated them? Amen. I don't feel like he loves me anymore. When's the last time you told him or her that you love them? Amen. Do you understand that whatever you sow, it will come back? If you want to be appreciated, sow appreciation. If you want to be loved, sow love. If you want to be hated and yelled at, then sow hate and anger and yell. And I'll guarantee you, it will come back. Amen. It is a principle that whatever he said, God is not mocked. God's not a fool. Whatever you sow, you will reap. The question, ladies and gentlemen, you need to think, what in the world are you reaping? What are you sowing? Because it comes back. You need to understand these points, and I'll hurry through these points. Number 1, everything starts as a seed. Everything starts as a seed. The first law of harvest is that everything has to be sown. There has to be a seed planted. A dream started as a seed. They didn't just all of a sudden make the diesel engine or the gas-powered engine. Somebody had to dream that up. Amen. It started with a dream. Electricity started with a dream. America started as a dream, an idea. There's this land over here that we can get away from all of this other tyranny and all of this other stuff that we're being put in these countries. And we can come to America. Remember, everybody wants to come and live the American dream. Amen. Because this country has been made on dreams. That's why it's been blessed for so many years. That's why it's prospered more than any other country in the history of the world. Everybody's talking about how great China's doing. You need to look. China's facing economic problems. You just don't know all of them. But it's beginning to hit them too. Amen. And everybody's saying, now what are we going to do? Get it in line. What are we sowing? And the dreams that are there. You need to understand what happened in America. They had a dream. A dream of what? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Amen. And that's why they came here. They wanted a better life than what they had. They wanted more freedom than what they had. And they wanted to be able to pursue happiness. Not to constantly have to work for somebody else all the time and never have anything. Because they were the Lord and the master, and you were the slave. And if you didn't pay, you got thrown into prison. Do you know that most of the people that came to this country were coming out of debtors' prisons? Amen. To work off the debt of the person that had them put in jail? Amen. Boat after boat after boatload of people came here. This country was started by poor people. Amen. And this country still got poor people. It will always have poor people, okay? Because somebody else is going to get all the riches. Genesis 1:1, Genesis chapter 1, God said this, let the land have seed-bearing plants and trees that bear fruit with seeds in it according to their varieties. You need to circle this word, according to their varieties. Why? You can't plant an apple seed and get peaches off of it. It don't work. You've got to plant it, okay? And we'll talk about that a little later as we come through here. So what is a seed? A seed is anything valuable that I give away. You understand? A seed in my life is anything valuable I give away. For instance, when you give away your time, how much is it worth? It can't be retrieved. You have got exactly 24 hours in a day, ladies and gentlemen. We all have the same. And if you give away any part of that day to someone else, it's valuable to you. You can't retrieve it. But let me say this to you. When you give away time to someone else, that is a seed that you're planting. Amen. And ladies and gentlemen, God will bless you and give you more time than you ever think of. Amen. There comes times that you look at the end of the day. I'll just take, for example, yesterday, okay? Many of y'all have no clue what this church looked like because you haven't been in all of the rooms and in all of the places. You don't know all of the cubby holes and hiding places that are in this place. Tammy, last Sunday, she says, can you give me a tour of this church? She says, because there's a couple places I haven't seen. And I said, okay, let's go. I will show you the nooks and crannies that you don't even know about. There is an attic over here that you could get up the stairs into it, and that's as far as you got. On the side of that attic was 31 boxes of 8-foot fluorescent lights, 15 to a box. And you look at this church and tell me how many 8-foot fluorescent lights do you see? Only in the back hallway over there, and some of them don't work. And you can put bulbs in them and they still aren't going to work. They need to be replaced. Amen. Getting to it. Okay? So what in the world do you need to do with 31 bulbs that have been here for 28 to 30 years? They're taking up room. They make the best sound in the world when they go boom. When you throw them in a dumpster and they all collapse at the same time, it is a boom. And it's two little kids having fun. So I have a couple people helping me clean that attic out. Over here was financial records from the 1970s. Most of those people are dead and gone. Amen. And they could care less about their financial records of 1970. Because God is already blessing them with whatever they gave to this church. Okay? They ain't concerned about what they gave to this church in 1970. God's already said, here it is. Well, they aren't concerned and neither were we. Okay? So it's gone. It's out of here. Actually, upstairs, there's still some things that need to be gone, but I said, here's what we're going to do. And then we went to another room and another room, and we worked our way from the front to the back, and we got to the part way to the back. We didn't get it all because we ran out of time. It would have took me by myself somewhere close, if I was to work an 8-hour day, it would have taken me roughly about 3 weeks of 120 hours. But we had some people starting about 7 o'clock, work until 5, 6 o'clock. There was about 15, 4, 5, 6 kids, right? Gave up their Saturday morning beauty sleeps to be here and help, and they did. They gave their time, which was precious. And what happened? Y'all walk in here this morning and you see a nice, clean place. So we are taking a week off. The rest of y'all have this week. Only kidding. We still got my stuff to do, guys. We ain't finished. But give away your time. What about your experience? Think about it for a minute. I was talking to my son. I shared this story, I think, last week, because I have gone through the last 30 years of my life hurting because I really felt that I had failed my kids about working on a church before them. And Chester can allude to this. When we were in Somerville trying to get that place ready, we gave up a lot of time. The great thing about it was their families did too. Not only were we pushing brooms or doing stuff, we were doing mechanical stuff, they were pushing brooms. The kids were right in there with us. When my son sat down and we really began to talk last week, and he shared to me, he said, Dad, he said, if maybe you're hurting, but I want to tell you, thank you for letting us do that with you guys. Because by allowing us to do that, you know how much money that you've saved us in our life? I don't know if you've ever remodeled a kitchen or had somebody remodel the kitchen for you. You are talking somewhere $20,000 to $30,000 to remodel a kitchen. A bathroom, the two places in the house that are the most expensive to remodel. But if you know how to do plumbing and carpentry and you network with friends, you know how much money that saves you? Why? Because you're giving your time to them. You're giving your experience to them, and they're giving back. Amen. When you sow that, ladies and gentlemen, you will reap it. A lot of people ask me all the time, how do you do the things that you do? How do I do the things that I do? Because I learned a long time ago, networking, people. Networking. Somebody comes up and asks you a question about something that you know, give them the answer. Don't charge them. You know, you charge your boss, you don't charge your friends. You give it away. And guess what? God will give it back in return. Amen. Multitudes, over and over and over again. Okay? Good advice. There are some times you need to listen to good advice from other people. Because why? Because the advice that they're giving you is a seed that's been planted. And if you give that good advice to the next person and the next person that you come in contact with, that has now been broadcast. These are the seeds that he's talking about. Anything that I give away in order to help somebody else. That's what you need to understand. Not hurt them, help them. Help them, okay? Do you know that words can be seeds? Amen. Planted in the minds of people. And let me tell you something. You plant the wrong word and the wrong seed in someone's mind, Satan will definitely help it grow. He will definitely do some watering. Because why? He wants to do damage. So you need to understand something. The best words that you can give, ladies and gentlemen, are to the people that you're talking to that you love. Your husband, your wife, your children. Never should you ever give a harmful word to your wife, your husband, or your children. Amen. Never talk to them in anger. Never. The Bible says so. The Bible is very plain when it says, do not get angry. He says, or do not be angry and sin not. What he's saying is this: when you are angry, shut up. Gain your composure, let God gain control of you, and then talk. Amen. Because you'll have less regrets of what you said. Amen. Later on, okay? Number 2 is this: nothing happens until that seed is planted. If this was a seed, and I've got a bunch of these, I got seeds, okay? I have a bunch of flower seeds in my garage every year in the fall. I love clearancing of flowers. The problem is I buy them and they stay there. And next year, I hope and pray that in my garage, on that concrete, will be a nice gladioli, some crocuses, and it doesn't matter. Every time I push the garage door, I look in there and I still have that box of seeds. And some people will say, well, they're dead. Probably, but maybe not. But can I tell you something? When you take a seed and plant it in the ground, it has to die before it can live. Amen. Now, when you go and plant something in the ground, everybody wants it to grow up and be a tree or something tomorrow. Have you ever done this? You planted a seed, you know where it was planted because you marked it. And you waited for 3 or 4 days and it never came up. And you go out there and you take your shovel or whatever and you start digging. And you get to where that seed is planted and you look and it's starting to grow. Oh, I better put it back in the ground. When you dig it up, you are trying to do something that you shouldn't be doing. When you plant the seed, ladies and gentlemen, let it die so it will grow. Amen. It may take time. We live in a generation where we want everything instantaneous. Let's just be real. You got a husband that you don't like, what he does. You got a wife that does things that you don't like. So I'm going to change them. I've read the book written by Dr. So-and-so. And here's what the book says: the 7 steps to improving the relationship with your husband or your wife. If you take the 7-day challenge, at the end of the 7 days, your husband or your wife will love you like no one else. Day number 1, making breakfast in bed. Making breakfast in bed comes to Tuesday. Day number 2 is don't talk about you, talk about him. Everything that he wants to talk about. If he wants to talk about sports, watch it with him. Go anywhere where he wants to go. Do anything he wants to do. And you just don't worry about it. Day number 2. So Wednesday comes along and you're hoping that this sucker has changed. And day number 3 comes along and he's still the same old coot that he was on Monday. I get to Wednesday and I'm trying step number 3. And by the time I get to Thursday, he's still as evil as he was on Monday. And I get to day number 7 and I'm looking to think, praise God, I'm going to finally be married to the man that I thought I would change when I got married. And day number 7 comes along and he's still the same way he was. I'm throwing that book away. I'm going back to the same way that I used to be. George, what are you doing laying your underwear around? What are you doing over here? What are you doing over there? And we expect the people to change. It don't occur. There are sometimes you got to plant that seed in the ground. Do you understand that sometimes it takes something 7 years for it to start growing? Amen. And you think it's dead? So don't give up on relationships. Amen. Just keep planting and watering, okay? Because planting is risky. Because you can't see what's going on underneath the dirt. What God's doing and what God's changing. It isn't up to us to see what's going on underneath there. It's only up to us to plant the seed. What did God say? Some sow, some water, but God gives the increase, okay? Jesus said this in Mark chapter 4. Jesus said the kingdom of God is like someone who plants seed in the ground, okay? Night and day. Whether the person is asleep or awake, the seed still grows, but the person does not know how it grows. So whatever you're planting, ladies and gentlemen, while you're sleeping, it's growing. Amen. It's growing. Number 3, when I have a seed, I should plant a seed, okay? There are times, ladies and gentlemen, that sometimes, for instance, a farmer looks out at his land and it's all barren. And he looks out there and he says, I planted and I planted and I planted, and Lord, it's still barren. So what does he do? He goes and prays. How many times have you done this? And be honest. How many times you planted a seed and nothing happened? And what did you do? Well, I got to go plant another seed. That one didn't come up. So I need to go plant another one. So what happens, ladies and gentlemen, let me say this to y'all. There are times that you need to do something instead of praying. Because sometimes we use prayer as a cop-out. I've planted a seed and nothing happened. So God, I need to plant some more. And he's saying, no, you don't understand. The seed that you planted, you can't see what's happening on underneath of the surface. You don't know what's going on. You don't need to plant another seed. You just need to pray that I water that one. Amen. And as I begin to water it, guess what happens? It begins to grow. And then all of a sudden that seed that you planted becomes something that you never even dreamed it would have. If you would spend more time praying about God giving the water instead of praying and planting another seed, you would find out you would have more time, more blessings to do whatever you wanted to do, what it is that needs to be done according to God, okay? So sometimes you need this. Ecclesiastes chapter 11 says this, do your planting in the morning and in the evening too. You'll never know whether it will all grow well or whether one planting will do better than the other. You ever heard the old saying, do not put all your eggs in one basket? That came from the Bible too, by the way. Okay? Number 4, whenever I plant or whatever I plant, it's what I'm going to reap. And I have a whole bunch of verses that go right along here, and God can just, you can read them all. I don't need to give them all to you. But you need to understand God's law of reproduction. It is a basic thing. And God says this, If a farmer plants a crop of beans, when he goes back at harvest time, it is not going to be corn. It ain't going to change. What we want to do is we want to sow seeds of something and have God instantaneously, miracle, with a miraculous touch of his hand, change it to what we want it to be. And God says, I ain't doing that. If you want it to be that, you plant that. Now, if you'll plant that, then I will reproduce it. I hear people all the time complaining, I don't have enough money. What money have you sown?
Amen.
Seriously. You're saying he's talking tithing. No, I'm not. I'm talking about this. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a misconception that everybody should give 10% to God. May I tell you, that is a bald-faced lie. You should give God all of it.
Amen.
You bring 10% or into the storehouse of God for the church. Okay? But let me tell you this. The other 90%, you think you should go spend it the way you want to spend it? No. If you go out, and let me say this to y'all, because this is the little thing that happens. You see it all the time. We're on cruise ships. I cannot tell you how many senior citizens that I see on the cruise ships sitting in the casinos at the same slot machine, all kinds of money forking in there, praying to God to hit the jackpot. Now, if you go out here and spend $20,000 at Miami Valley Gaming, do you think that God's going to give you 100 times that? Which would end up being somewhere close to about $2 million? No. But let's just talk some basic principles. I should use my money wisely. Asking God for direction. Okay, sometimes we don't do this. We just go out and buy a car, we buy this, we buy that. We never ask God, what should we do? And this is what I'm saying. If you take and give everything to God, it's his. And don't think that I'm saying for 1 minute that we live in a church that is a commune, that you are to take every nickel and every dime and every penny and everything that you got as far as money and give to the church. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying give it to God. If you sow it with God, God will bless it. I've shared with you, I will continue to share with you. I know what I'm talking about. I was talking to my wife, and I don't share this with many people, okay? And I'm not sharing this to see how great I am. I learned a long time ago to get into the field that I'm in because you can make money in that field. It's not the same today as it was then. I got a job in Columbus, and I've told you all this. Well, I went back and I was talking to my wife. I was looking back at my Social Security statement of my earnings over the years. In 2005, I think it was, 2005, I made $199,000, okay? In the year 2006, I made $220,000. In 2007, I made $35,000, okay? In 2005, we bought a brand new house. And that house payment is exuberant. Okay? So we were making the money, we could afford it. I can still afford it today. Okay? But we did that. All of a sudden, I'm making exactly the amount of money that I would pay, or no, not the same amount of money that I would pay in a house payment a year. But my house payment was always made. My bills were always paid.
Amen.
And I still to this day cannot tell you where it all came from. I have no clue.
Amen.
I have no clue. Except this. Whenever you've got plenty, ladies and gentlemen, give it to the Lord.
Amen.
Whenever you have little, give it to the Lord.
Amen.
And he'll take care of you. Will we sell this house? Absolutely, we'll sell this house. Will we ever pay it off? No. We'll come to a point in time when the market is back to a place, then we'll unload the thing. My wife wants me to move into a condominium with her. We're still discussing these issues. Okay? It's what do we want to do and where do we want to go. And I can tell you, a lot of times people say, well, you guys do all kinds of things. May I say the reason that we do all kinds of things is because I've been faithful to God through the years. And I'm not about to stop now. And God has blessed me in ways that I could never ever imagine. And he still does. They talk at work, well, what are you going to do if you get laid off? I said, I'll find something else. I don't care. Because God has always provided. I don't get concerned over those things. That was probably that back there. Number 5, I got to get finished, okay? Number 5 is this: I'm not the only sower. You need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, you are not the only one that is sowing something. In some of you grew up in homes, and I'm sorry that you did, in a home where there's a family of abuse, a history of alcohol, a history of divorce. And some of you have got to make that decision today. It stops. Because either it stops or you can continue it on.
Amen.
Because Abraham had a son named Isaac. Abraham lied. Who else lied? Isaac. Who else lied? Jacob. Who else lied? His sons.
Amen.
Somebody had to break that chain. And ladies and gentlemen, it may be in your house that you need to understand you are not the only sower. There are other people that are out there sowing. If you had 5 siblings and you all grew up in a house of abuse, guess what you've got? 5 people from that father or from that mother that could be broadcasting the sowing of the seeds of abuse.
Amen.
But one of you could stop it. And then there would only be 4 out there sowing. Because why? There's 4 sowing this, but there's one that decided not to sow this anymore and broke that. And said, I'm no longer doing this. I'm going to do this.
Amen.
My mom and dad, when I grew up, my mom and dad drank. I mean, they would come on and they would throw some doozies. And half the time we would sit there as kids just laughing because they were hilarious. Drunk people, like my mom and dad, it was entertainment. We didn't need a TV, man. It was Comedy Central. You had no clue what was going to happen next. And we would all sit there and make fun of them.
Amen.
Every one of us, all of our aunts and our uncles were all alcoholics. They ran booze. Clay County, Kentucky, which was supposed to be a dry county, was the wettest county in the world. There was the old saying that God pumped the sunshine in and they pumped the moonshine out. Because it was everywhere. I learned to drive when I was 16. And my mom says, okay, you drive. I go to the holler. And my uncle says, can Charlie drive me down into town to get something? The problem was, Mom said, don't you take any detours. Well, we took I don't know how many detours going to him buying some more moonshine. I've had uncles and I've had aunts that have died because of the way that they drank their life away. I could have been the same one. But praise God, he put a taste in my mouth that says, I hate alcohol.
Amen.
Some of it. Some of the taste is good, but I don't like it. Okay? I don't drink it. Okay? So anyway, John 4:38 says, I sent you to reap where you didn't plant. Others had already done work before you, and you will now gather the harvest. And he's trying to tell you these things. You need to understand some things that even as kids, you need to learn to teach your kids to share.
Amen.
And then everything will be okay, because what you're doing, ladies and gentlemen, is you're leaving a legacy. Number 6 is I will always reap in a different season than I sow. Okay? The Bible says in Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything, a season for every activity under heaven, a seed to plant right now, and a time to harvest, a time to scatter, and a time to gather. You need to understand that you can't automatically just plant it, and it's going to come up. It will come up, but you got to wait. Number 8, I always reap more than I sow. So, this is the law of multiplication. Forget what they teach you in school. 1 times 1 equals 1. The law of multiplication, ladies and gentlemen, does not work in the art or the law of sowing. Amen. Okay? If you sow 1 seed of corn, you will get back. And I learned this. I learned my farming going out to Somerville, Ohio, as a preacher, a city preacher, trying to show people what he knew about farming, and he was an idiot. I loved it. I'm up there preaching one day, and I'm giving him this illustration that you can't believe how much God has blessed the farmers this year. I'm coming from Hamilton or Fairfield to Somerville, and I'm driving by all of these crops of corn, and I can't believe 6 or 7 ears of corn on those stalks. And somebody said, you need to take me back by that farm. This I got to see. Well, it's just right down the road. Which farm? It's the third one down on the right-hand side on 127, going back down there. Okay, let's take a ride, preacher. It isn't that I don't believe you, but I don't believe you. You may have a lot of Bible knowledge. This is what he told me. You may have a lot of Bible knowledge, Pastor, but you need to stick to the Bible. Amen. And leave the farming to us farmers. Either that or make sure that when you get your illustrations, they are right. So I learned a lesson that day. Whenever I talk about farming, it is a fact check. When you plant 1 seed, you get 2 ears on that stalk. Amen. Okay? And how many little grains of kernels of corn do you get? It depends. Because I ain't going to count them. But I know one thing. The farmer can take that corn, set some aside for next year. Amen. Have probably as much as they planted this year, and they can fill silo after silo after silo up with corn. That is what God is saying is the law of multiplication. 1 seed does not equal 1 more plant. 1 seed will give you multitudes of plants. I increase my harvest by planting more seeds. Do you understand? The Proverbs says this in 11:24, says the world of the generous gets larger and larger. The world of the stingy gets smaller and smaller. You want to know why you're not growing? You're stingy. The world of the stingy gets smaller and smaller. Okay? Number 10, the more seed I plant, the more God will give me. 2 Corinthians, for God who supplies seed to the farmer, bread to the eat, will give you more and more seed to plant, will make it grow so that you can give away more and more fruit from your harvest. And number 11, I'll finish with this, and that's the last one, as Diana gets a song to play for invitation, and that is this. I got one more point after this one. Okay? And that's this real quick. Is I plant by faith, not by my feelings. Too many times what we want to do is plant what we feel like. Well, like today I feel like planting a gladioli. Tomorrow I feel like planting a crocus. I also learned that there are times that you need to plant some things. The right time to plant it. As a matter of fact, you can't take and plant a green bean outside in the wintertime and expect it to come up and have a bunch of green beans. Because the frost and the ice and everything else is going to kill it. That green beans needs a little bit of water and a lot of sunshine and a lot of love of making sure the weeds and everything are out of there. So you got to understand that I plant based on my faith, not my feelings. And too many times right now, some of you guys are planting based on your feelings. I don't feel like being nice today. I don't feel like being happy today. I want to sit here and be miserable. Well, guess what? You're going to be more miserable.
Amen.
I want to sit here and do some self-indulgence. I want to just talk about me. Go for it. It's probably the only person that's going to be talking about you. And the last but not least, when's the time to plant is right now, not tomorrow. The question is this. When I when I look over, when I look over this congregation, most of y'all that I look at have said you are a Christian. My question to you this right now, as we stand, as she plays, is this. What seed are you sowing right now? Are you unhappy in your life? Then why don't you ask God to help you sow some other seeds? Are you tired of reaping the same thing over and over and over again? Maybe you need to try a different seed. If all you're getting back from everybody is negativity, maybe you need to understand that you might want to be positive. If all you're getting back from people is anger, maybe you need to look in a mirror and see what your reflection shows. Maybe your face is showing nothing but anger, and that's what they see. You ever tried smiling to people? I can always smile to people, except when you ask me to smile for a picture. I can't smile for a picture, but I can smile when somebody talks to me. It's something that I can't do just off the, just plan it. No, it's something that's got to come. So here's the question. What are you going to do? What are you planting right now? You're asking God, I need more time. Then maybe you need to start saying to God, help me right now to give you the time that I need to give you. God, I'll give you an hour of my day. I will give you 1 hour right now. I'll guarantee you if you give 1 hour of your day, you will find out you'll get more accomplished in your life during the day that you've given him the 1 hour than you would have if you'd given him 10 seconds. Plan it. I challenge you. Matter of fact, may I say this to you? I dare you. I dare you to start planting different seeds and come back and tell me it didn't work. We'll talk about what kind of seed you planted. Let's change the variety. This isn't burpee. This is God. Hello, this is Pastor Chuck Cotton from Calvary Baptist Church. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for taking the time out to either listen to our sermon or to watch it on video. We are grateful that you've actually taken the time and hope and pray that it has been a blessing to you as it was to us as we delivered it to our congregation. We ask if you have any questions whatsoever that you email us at pastorchuck@calvarybaptistmiddletown.org, or you could come in and give us a phone call, if you would please, at area code 513-423-7251. I'd like to take this opportunity to also invite you to come to our church and visit us, if you would please. We actually have small groups on Sunday morning starting at 9:30, with our morning worship following at 10:45. Prior to our morning small groups, we also provide donuts with coffee, milk, orange juice, a time for fellowship, get to know each other, have a good time before we actually break out into our small groups for Sunday. Our worship services are uplifting, they're fast moving, and everything in our service is just a fast pace. But we do take time every once in a while to slow down as we feel the Holy Spirit moving.
and we never want to hinder it in any way. We also have on Sunday evening, during the school year, we have Awana, and Awana starts with the Puggles, actually from age 2 all the way up through high school. And during that period of time, we also have a worship service. Both of these start at 6 o'clock and end at 7:30. Our Wednesday night, we have a Bible study, which starts at 7. We generally finish about 8:15. We would love for you to come and visit with us. Don't have to dress up. Just come as you are, because to us, it doesn't matter. You're a child of God, a creation of His, and so to us, you're important to everything that we do. Our motto here is building the kingdom one life at a time, and we hope that we have a chance to visit with you, get to know you as you get to know us. So thank you, and may God bless you.